Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Premier League Check-In podcast. Looking back on round 15 in the biggest league in world football, and it's the biggest headache in world football this week if you're an Ipswich Town fan. But we're going to get into that. I'm here with the great Matt SB, and does it feel like this three-game week has been a bit transformative down at the bottom of the Premier League, mate? Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Ben, and good afternoon to the viewers. It certainly does. We've said that once more games are played, and the further you go into a season, things do spread out, and it's starting to develop with a bit of a narrative down at the bottom where 2 and 3 possibly being cut adrift. But still, teams above it, they won't feel safe just yet because we're not even at the halfway point of the season. But things are shaping up interestingly down at the bottom.
You used the word interestingly. I can think of many different words after this week. Matt's moment is going to focus on the bottom three, but we'll just have a look at the teams above the dotted line for whom it's been an all right week. Now, I'm going to say this many times during this show, Matt. We're recording on Monday today. I'm out and about tomorrow. We normally record on a Tuesday, and we do have a pretty vital game between West Ham United and Wolves, which hasn't yet been played as we're talking today. So by the time this comes out, Wolves could have closed the gap up a little bit. They're still going to be in the bottom three. Or West Ham could have bumped up and put their own gap in, over the bottom six, given Everton's game got postponed. But Matt, we are potentially looking at a manager losing this game. I know it's not all down to one game, potentially not being in the job this time tomorrow. So we're on a bit of a sticky wicket here with our record time, aren't we? But just talk to me a little bit about West Ham. I still make them favourites to win that game.
Yeah, it feels like maybe a cup final for both Lopetegui and Gary O'Neill, the West Ham Wolves game. Obviously, the viewers have a head start on us knowing the outcome. I suppose it's worth running through what those outcomes would be. If West Ham win, they blast away from trouble, and you're looking at Wolves being stuck with Ipswich and Southampton. If it's a draw, not a lot of change with movement, but if Wolves win, then the gap down there closes and West Ham get drawn into it, and I really would worry for Lopetegui if they're losing this one. West Ham's most recent result, Ben, was that 3-1 defeat to Leicester. Obviously, it was 3-0 until they scored right at the end. I know Leicester have just appointed Ruud van Nistelrooy, and it was a home game for them, and you could say it was a new manager bounce, but what West Ham haven't had is a new manager bounce this season. I know we're 15 games in now, but it's not been great for Lopetegui. You look at where they are in the table. Like I say, difficult at this moment in time because if they do beat Wolves yesterday for the viewers, then it looks a lot more clear that, okay, 9 points above that bottom three. But I've not been too convinced. Even if West Ham do go on to finish, say 12th or something, I don't think this has worked. I think that's what West Ham fans will say. There's still time for him to make things look better at West Ham, but you think of the fact that they wanted to move on from David Moyes and try a better brand of football, but the results are not better. So that's the main thing.
No, they're not. No result whatsoever for Everton because we're going to scoot past them a little bit. I think this is a bit of a nuisance, actually. A game that big being postponed and then going back into the diary at a later date. It's okay if it's, I don't know, pick any of the bottom three at home. Postpone that one, fine, because you might be favourites in that one. But the big Merseyside derby, Everton obviously are still going to be off the. Their last result was a huge win against Wolves, so they'll be happy enough, and neither here nor there really with Everton postponed. But Leicester City, Matt, you already mentioned them, have had an incredible start, and where we're going to talk about certain teams that were blue in the bottom three being in coin flip games and managing to lose every single one of them. It does feel like Leicester, fair play to them this season when there's been an opportunity to win a game, nick a point, get something. They've done it. And I don't know whether that's just I think it was 8-year run they had, whether that's just Premier League experience, Premier League now, Premier League DNA that maybe certain other sides don't have. They look dead and buried against Brighton, but Van Nistelrooy has 4 points in 2. And it turns out that it's a great result. Leicester 2, Brighton 2.
Yeah, certainly. But what you've seen from Leicester City so far this season is they are good at coming back. And that's a massive thing for a team that's been promoted from the Championship. I know we can say Leicester maybe shouldn't have been relegated to the Championship considering how good they were in the Premier League in previous years, but that's something teams that get promoted struggle to do, come from behind, and also late goals. Leicester have scored so many late goals, like you touched on. Southampton against Ipswich, they had that come back against Arsenal, but then they received a couple of late goals against them. I think they scored a late one against Chelsea, but that was a consolation. And in this one, two very late goals, because I think Brighton scored about 8 minutes from the end. And you're thinking to yourself, well, that's it, isn't it? Brighton get the win. Brighton obviously a good team, but yeah, great win, and it really gets that positivity going at the King Power. That right, okay, we've made the right decision here. Van Nistelrooy's popular around the place. They've got good players. You've got Jamie Vardy in particular, who's still scoring goals at this level. And yeah, I think they're doing well. Got a nice little gap over that bottom three. So yeah, just keep working at it. Still a long way to go, but Leicester are looking pretty decent, to be honest. They don't look like a team that's just come up, if that makes sense.
Yeah, fair play to Leicester, and even fairer play to Crystal Palace, who have had a superb week. Frankly, when you look at it, they're still in 17th, but Palace are the ones that are kind of responsible for this gap because they went to Ipswich, obviously, and won their head to head. Matt, one defeat in 8 games. I didn't. That's crept up on me, because there's draws in there, and you kind of look back through it. I think is there an EFL there is an EFL Cup game in there as well where they went to Villa and won. But this past week alone, late equaliser against Newcastle, big head-to-head win against Ipswich. And then I know Man City are having a bit of a struggle at the moment, but, to still be drawing with the reigning champions and um, taking 5 points across the week and winning the key head-to-head. Palace are now doing the thing we thought they were going to do and trending up towards, well, they're 2 points off 1 point per game. So great week for Palace.
Yeah, fantastic week for Palace. All built on that last minute goal at Newcastle, which maybe gave them the positivity and a bit of momentum coming into a crucial week. The Man City result, I mean, Man City, yeah, they've not been on a great run, but they did beat Forest 3-0 in midweek, and you're thinking, here we go, they're back. So to take a draw off them, very impressive. I think they came from behind twice, or did they take the lead twice? Fantastic from Palace. Really, really solid performance. And in particular, the big game in that week was obviously the Ipswich game, which, we'll come on to Ipswich later, where it kind of is that narrative of an established Premier League team just knowing how to do it, and a clean sheet away at Ipswich. I know Ipswich are in the bottom three, but it can't be sniffed at for Palace. Great result, really, really good result. And you look at them now; they've also opened up a gap over the bottom three. And I know some people will look at it and say, "Oh, they've only won 2 games," but you focus on the recent form, as you say, 1 defeat in 8, brilliant.
Yeah, and I've got the table up and the form, and you can just look at it. Everton have got 5 points in 4, Leicester have got 4 points in 2, Palace have got 6 points in 4. That's the type of return that wouldn't do a lot even in kind of mid table, but at the bottom of the table that makes a big difference. We are going to come back to the bottom three for Matt's moment in a little bit, but let's make it a little bit more positive for a second. Let's talk worldie of the week, Matt, and our most aesthetically pleasing goals. What have you gone for this week, buddy?
I have gone for Lamptey's goal for Brighton. We don't talk about Brighton enough. I suppose we're just so used to them being flying like at the top of the Premier League table, and it seems like a lifetime ago they were in the Championship. Obviously, they'll look at this game as dropped points. We've just mentioned it, but the goal from Lamptey is a special one. It opens the scoring down down the right hand side, cuts in left foot, bends it, and it's a really good goal. It's the way it sort of floats, it sort of glides into that top corner, and the keeper's trying to like claw at it, and he can't quite get it. It just nestles in that corner perfectly. Very, as you say, aesthetically pleasing. I'll go with Lamptey's goal for Brighton.
And it's not Cunha for Wolves, like it has been throughout the last 8 weeks. I think there was
Not this
something that
week.
Wolves posted on their social media that he was the first player to be like nominated 3 times in 1 month or something like that. But there we go.
Incredible.
The honours this week go to Brighton and to Lamptey. And I've avoided it long enough. Let's go to Matt's moment now. And I guess the question is this our bottom three we're looking at it? And I know we get all those boring, reductive comments of, oh, it's too early to say, you can't say now. Yeah, okay, fine, it's too early to say with any certainty, but we are where we are now, and we can discuss what we're looking at right in front of our faces. And what we're looking at is Ipswich have just had the most horrific week you can possibly have, losing the Forest thing, fine, whatever, if you then reacted. But then to lose at home to Palace in the head-to-head, and the manner of the defeat against Bournemouth with 2 late goals swinging the game when you thought potentially there's a home win on. Wolves, again, we don't know. But whatever Wolves do, and even if they get the win, they're still going to be part of the bottom three. And given what we've said about Palace and Leicester, um, do they look more powerful than those sides at the moment? I don't think so. And Southampton, I don't know really where we go with this now, because we've got an 8-point gap between Southampton and Crystal Palace, and there's a point where you can reasonably ask the question. And again, I know we get the keyboard warrior. It's too early to say, but are Southampton making up an 8-point gap given what we've seen so far? And what have we got? 23 games across 23 games. Is that gap going to close or get bigger? At the moment, you'd be saying get bigger. So I can see the argument, even though we're aware what percentage of the season is remaining, that could be the bottom three. Do you want to start with Ipswich then, Matt? I've said my piece on them, and check out the Blue Monday podcast yesterday, which was a nice therapy session, Matt.
Yeah, honestly, when I saw the late goals going in on Sunday, I did want to go around to Ben's house and give him a hug.
I needed
it's
one.
it's the brutal reality of the Premier League, isn't it? I mean, the two results, we've spoken about this week for Ipswich, losing the 6-pointer to Palace at home, not being able to score, as we said earlier. Did Palace just school them in a sense, showing them how it's done in the Premier League if you're an established Premier League team? I suppose the same for Forest in the game before that as well, where you just couldn't quite get into it, and they've just ground out the 1-0 win in a sense. But the Bournemouth one, just very cruel, isn't it? We know Bournemouth are a good team, and the 1-0 was maybe never going to be enough, I suppose, for Ipswich. Did they need to go and get a second, perhaps? I still think do you know what, this is really difficult because there is positives to take, but a lot of Ipswich fans are going to be feeling very frustrated right now. And do you know what I'm picking up on is I don't think it's like Ipswich started amazing and they've taken a sharp downturn. I go back a few weeks and I think to myself, Ben, Ipswich have kind of been steady, not great, but steady, if that makes sense for what we've seen. But we were saying a few weeks ago, they've got a chance of staying up because Wolves and Palace are not picking up results. Leicester are not picking up results. What's changed is those teams, as you said earlier, Everton 5 points in 3, Palace 1 defeat in 8, and all of a sudden Ipswich are now getting left behind. So you've got to hang on to their sort of coattails and try and ride up the table a little bit with them. And Ipswich just not finding a way. 2 late goals. I don't want to be too horrible to Ipswich and say it's poor defending and whatnot. It's just
No, you can call out the keeper for the first one, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I will. Not impressed, but it's hard. It's so hard. I would expect a lot of the same if my team, Coventry, from the Championship can get to the Premier League. I expect it's going to be brutal if we do. And Ipswich, you've got to bear in mind, have come up 2 divisions. We've got players here that were with them in League One. That said, though, I still think there's some positives and a way in which Ipswich could survive. It's not, that's it, they're done yet. But they now need to get a win ASAP. I know we've said that for a long time, but it really has to be now because the gap is only getting bigger, not smaller.
And the problem is, Matt, you talk about Leicester playing the fine margins well and Ipswich not playing the fine margins well. And you say, well, why is that happening? And you kind of go, well, not good enough, not savvy enough, not lucky enough, combination of all three, or one or the other at various different times. And they just haven't been able to do, and I'm going to compare it to Leicester, do what Leicester have done, where they've won tight games, they've scored late goals, and everyone gets good luck and everyone gets bad luck in football. Fans only tend to notice when the team gets bad luck, but you just got to be there in a position to leverage your good luck when you get it. And Ipswich haven't. Again, Matt, in the space-time continuum, Wolves haven't played yet. So do you want to have a word on Wolves, or do you want to just move straight on to Southampton and me writing them off?
No, we'll touch on Wolves. As we said earlier, we are recording this Monday, and Wolves play tonight. If they win at West Ham, fantastic. But anything less, even a draw, I know it's away from home, and they won't really close the gap significantly. What I do think we might need to focus in on, Ben, is the next game for both Wolves and Ipswich. They play each other on Saturday. Wolves have the home advantage. That feels a massive, massive game. And what an opportunity. I mean, I know you can't both win, but looking at it sort of as a neutral from where I am, at least from where I'm concerned, one will get a result. Well, I suppose they could draw, but one will get a result and sort of close the gap on the teams above. But obviously, from your perspective as an Ipswich fan, you want it to be you. And I don't know if a draw's that good now. You've got to get yourself into a position where you're winning these games. I've liked Ipswich more at home, but then again, they haven't won at home yet, and they got the win at Spurs. So need a big performance from Ipswich at Wolves. Wolves, we've addressed that they don't seem to have problems scoring. It's just at the back they've been conceding. I know they've missed a couple of players, and at the time of recording this, if Wolves have lost to West Ham on the Monday, we could be seeing the end of Gary O'Neill. If not, I still have a feeling that could happen at some point in this season anyway, because the noises coming out of there are not great, if you know what I mean.
I was just thinking with my Ipswich hat on, it would almost be the best result for Ipswich would be for Wolves to draw at West Ham and O'Neill to stay, because you just wonder whether you get one of those little reactions if he is sacked and they go and beat Ipswich straight after. But hey, we're very much in the realms of what if maybe. And as Matt said earlier, you guys watching know, and we don't know what the result of that game is. Matt, Southampton, now you look at it, 5 points from 15, so we're not even 0.5 points a game. We're what is that? 1 point every 3 games, basically, which is horrible, isn't it? When do we get to the point where I know you've spoken about this in League One, where you get the 4 teams go down, and it almost gets very hard for someone who's cut adrift to pick themselves up and actually kind of know deep down that they're going down. When does Southampton reach that point?
Oh, soon, I'd imagine. You look at where Southampton are now. What I will say is, I think some of the sort of rhetoric and the words being used to describe Southampton's maybe a little bit unfair, because I suppose if you just look at the table, 5 points from 13 suggests they're a very bad team. But we can see, watching them, that there's some good things about them. It's just the mistakes that are really sort of killing them. Obviously, a 1-0 defeat to Villa, big picture, is not like the worst result in the world, but Southampton need results. And the position they're in now, if they were to somehow get back-to-back wins, which of course they haven't done already this season, and they've only won one, in fact, but if they somehow got back-to-back wins, for any other team down there, it gives them a bit of respite. For Southampton, they'd still be in trouble and, lose the next 2 after that. They're getting buried again. So do you know what I mean? They've got to go on a really good run now, and difficult in the Premier League for newly promoted teams, because in your next 4 or 5 games, there will be that 1 game or 2 games against teams from the top 6. So they've really got to win the head-to-heads now. And I know that's obvious, and we've said it before, but it's a fact now. The fixtures are coming so thick and fast through December. They need to win games of football, but not finding a way. And defensively, mistakes are killing them. But we've said as well that Russell Martin will go down on his sword, I guess, with his style of football, and people are saying, change it. But I don't know. I'm not sure. Maybe you share your thoughts if you think a new manager would come in there and do much better. I'm not too sold on that.
Well, there's a point, Matt. If we get when we get past round 18, which I assume we will be at Christmas, round 19, excuse me, when we're at the exact halfway point, and say it's a 10-point cap, not an 8-point cap, you almost know, if you're the Southampton ownership, that you're probably going to go down, and you almost need to say then, well, you either need to give Russ Martin a new contract and say, no, we're going to. He's our guy. If we go down, he's already got us promoted from the Championship once, he can do it again, and we're with him. Or you need to do the opposite. And do you know what I mean? You almost need to kind of really make clear what's happening there. I know a lot of the conversation about Russ Martin's a bit unfair, and some of it's a little bit cruel. I get it, but yeah, it does feel once you do reach that point. Whereas I think with a Kieran McKenna or a Ruud van Nistelrooy now, it's going to be, that conversation is not going to be had because they're going to have the backing of everybody around.
Mm.
Get your thoughts in then on Matt's relegation sandwich. That it looks like the bottom bit of bread on the relegation sandwich is kind of getting a bit detached from the top bit of bread, and there's less of a sandwich. But yeah, let us know your thoughts down there in the comments, and yeah, we will know more again in 12 hours time from when we're recording, because the West Ham Wolves game will have gone. Let's round this out, Matt. We're going mouth-watering matchup. Bit of a strange one because they're kind of both struggling, but Man City versus Man United, where we had this over the last few years where Man City were like eons better than Man United, but Man United would go and pick up weird results against them, wouldn't they, and beat them. Whereas now Manchester City have got their struggles, but they picked up that really good home win. Manchester United, strangely, have been in the news again for hiring a very expensive sporting director and sacking him after like 5 minutes or whatever. So the carnage there still isn't kind of right in itself. But what's your take on this one? Are we going to just be going back to blue supremacy, or can you see anything different?
Yeah, so it's an interesting one, of course, the Manchester derby. Yeah, you've picked up on the fact straight away that Manchester City can usually be having the best season ever, and Man United are 13th, and then Man United will go and beat them. But it feels different this time around because Man City are not in great form either. So obviously both need to win. Manchester United, far down the table. I mean, a disaster against Nottingham Forest. Some of the defending and goalkeeping was not good whatsoever. Manchester City drawing a few. I don't know, to be honest, Ben. I really couldn't call it. I do make Manchester City favourites because they are the better team. You touched on with Manchester United being in the news. I genuinely think they do need like a complete clean sweep. I know they change the manager every couple of years. I don't know if it's just worth sticking with Amorim even through tough times because they change. They give a manager 2 years and then the form dries up and they think, well, that's it, we'll relax that one. I can't put my finger on Manchester United's problems. They're very deep-rooted. As for this one-off game, though, I wouldn't be surprised if Manchester United gets something. It's always an interesting one, the Manchester derby, but I think we're at a point now where Man City almost have to win every game to win the title, but that's something they're capable of, so yeah, it'd be interesting.
Yeah, I can't peg it. I'll be racking my brains for the prediction show. I might just throw my finger up in the air and just have a complete guess on that one, because I could really see any of those eventualities happening, and we don't really have much solid info consistently over the recent weeks on either side, do we? Guys, thank you ever so much for joining us on the latest Premier League check-in podcast. Let us know if you know the West Ham Wolves situation better than us. Some extra thoughts than we've been able to give on the bottom three, but particularly if you do believe that is the bottom three, let us know. If you believe someone's going to drop down into it or someone's going to climb out of it, then let us know who you think that might be. Matt, we are going to do some League One action over on your channel, which is going to be coming out tomorrow or today if you're watching this. So well worth people heading over to the Matt SB channel.
Yep, definitely get involved. More Premier League, Championship and League One content. You can see a bit of Ben over there. We sometimes take the clips from the Premier League check-in and pop them over there as I talk about the relegation sandwich. So yeah, your support would be appreciated. Make sure to subscribe over there and subscribe over here if you haven't already.
Brilliant stuff. And we will see you next week for more Premier League action and what on earth is going to happen in Ipswich Wolves.